Then, ladies and gentlemen, as stated by His Excellency, I would like to expound on and give details on additional measures applicable to the local authority areas of Walvis Bay, Swakopmund, and Arandes, with effect from midnight tonight, Monday, the 6th of July 2020 to the 3rd of August 2020. With the exponential increase of cases at Walvis Bay, the three local authority areas, namely Walvis Bay, Swakopmund, and Arandes, will remain under stage 3 for a period of 28 days from the 7th of July 2020 until midnight on the 3rd of August 2020. The cordon to restrict the movement of people into and out of these three local authority areas will be reinforced as a travel ban, with the exception of the movement of essential and critical goods and services and medical emergencies. This means that the only permits to be issued and authorized to travel into and out of the three local authority areas will be for these categories provided. Travel between other towns in the Erongo region and to the rest of the country will be permitted, with the exception of the restricted local authority areas. To minimize broader exposure to communities residing at the towns of Walvis Bay, Swakopmund, and Arandes, travel into, out of, and between these three local authority areas is not permitted and will be restricted only to the supply of essential and critical goods and services as defined in the regulations. Personal contact details of all persons living and or entering the restricted local authority area will be recorded in the registry at the point of entry or exit by the law enforcement personnel. Measures to protect the most vulnerable person in categories as defined in the regulations will be strengthened, including shielding elderly persons from exposure to the general public. Caregivers employed in old age homes are required to self-quarantine at alternative locations and avoid contact with the general community. Stricter measures are being put in place to enhance protection at correctional facilities, including restrictions on visits by members of the public to such facilities. Isolation of positive COVID-19 cases in terms of location must be done in ways that do not introduce or increase harm to the community. This may include alternative isolation locations, including private facilities. The Ministry will build in a level of flexibility in the quarantine of contacts, including the location of such quarantine facilities in ways that do not introduce or increase harm to the community. This may include home-based quarantine when safe conditions for such quarantine can be established and verified against a standardized checklist. Public gatherings shall remain restricted to a maximum of 10 people for the whole of the Erongo region. Schools in the restricted areas may not resume face-to-face instructions. Learners who find themselves in the restricted area will not be permitted to travel out of that restricted area to other parts of the country, owing to the inherent risks. Any person leaving the Walvis Bay, Swakopmund, and Arandes local authority areas to any part of the country, apart from providers of critical goods and services, will be quarantined for a period of 14 days at own cost. Drivers of trucks and other vehicles delivering critical and essential services traveling from Walvis Bay, Swakopmund, and Arandes local authority areas will be quarantined as per existing modalities applicable to the quarantine of cross-border truck drivers and providers of essential goods and services. Inhabitants of the 3 local authority areas are urged to wear masks correctly when in public places. Keep a distance of not less than 1.5 meters from one another. Wash hands as frequently as possible. Keep on sanitizing and refrain from touching the mouth, nose, eyes, and face. The buying and selling of liquor are permitted as stipulated under Stage 3 guidelines between 12 hours and 18 hours on Monday to Friday and between 9 to 13 hours on Saturdays. On-site consumption of alcohol is prohibited. Thus, alcohol may only be consumed in private dwellings. Public transport from and into the 3 restricted local authority areas is prohibited for the duration of this special dispensation. Measures to protect the healthcare system, such as minimizing the number of people entering hospitals and carrying out vigorous screening for symptoms, will continue to be enhanced. The proclamation makes provision for penalties for the violation of these additional measures. However, we would like to appeal to the inhabitants of these local authority areas to comply willingly and not to wait to be policed into compliance. This is done to protect yourself, your family, and the Namibian nation. Together we can overcome COVID-19. As has been stated by His Excellency, we are recording different types of transmission in the different towns. In Walvis Bay and Swakopmund, there is a transmission of the virus within the community. At Swakopmund, we are mitigating a cluster of cases where most cases have been locally transmitted and are linked to chains of transmission. In other parts of the country, we have thus far recorded sporadic cases, which are cases that have been imported or locally acquired. We have received reports of family members of positive persons being subjected to acts of discrimination and stigmatization. We need to remember that COVID-19 does not discriminate. Therefore, nobody should discriminate anybody or be discriminated against on the basis of being COVID-19 positive or affected. We must at all times extend our helpful hand to those who have been infected and affected. I thank you.